Okay, so understanding the difference between population and sample. Let us say you want to get a measure of how effective Covaxin is. So how do you do that? You will find out, you will make a table. You will make a table as did the person take Covaxin? Did it relapse? Okay. Now there are, let's say, about 50 crore people who have taken, let's say, eventually 50 crore people would end up taking Covaxin. Now, are you going to take or find out or give agency a task or contract some agency and give them the task of actually calling each one of them and finding out whether they took it, whether it relapsed, whether they had any side effects? Are we going to know? We are not going to do that. This 50 crore is the population, and whatever we decide to take, we will say from all the states collect about 1 lakh data. So from about 50 states you will collect about 50 lakhs. So from this 50 lakhs point data, this is your sample. All your statistical analysis is going to be on the sample. And whatever the truth that comes out, whether it is how many percentage have side effect, how many had a relapse again, means again they got affected by COVID despite having taken the vaccine, have they taken it or not, of all the people, let's say this, of course, if I've already put in that they have taken, so this anyways is irrelevant, everything will be 1. Relapse 1 0 1 0, side effects 0 1 0, what kind of side effects, and you can also note what kind of demography they live in. Are they living in a cold weather condition or hot weather condition? So all this extra data that you take will help you decide that the hot weather condition people had more side effects. So something is there with the temperature and Covaxin. So these kind of hypothesis can be framed based on the data. Now once these hypotheses are framed, who is to tell that whatever hypothesis is holding true for the sample will also hold true for the population? For that we will do inferential statistics. So I'll discuss one of the techniques of technique of inferential statistics, the basic standard which you or everyone should know. So this is population and sample, because it is not, we cannot just use population and sample as a definition. This, of course, this is not a class where we are going to go through the definition. You can always find definitions online, but this is the way you understand. This is why population and sample are different. Okay, given any given data set, what you will get in data science is a sample only, because you will never get the full data. It doesn't exist. Sometimes we haven't even collected it yet. Whatever you are getting, it is always the sample only, and you want it to be true on the final population where actually your model will be tested. Is it clear? So can I see ones from all the zeros, or okay, fair enough, right? Okay, fine. Perfect. Thank you. Done. So next is population sample is done. Now you have some, of course, we call fancy math, all this math that you have. Only thing you have to observe is formulas are always there. Formulas are always out there. Once you understand what it is meaning, now you know, by the nature of it, you know, right, that this sigma square is actually the squared difference from the mean. So that is what squared difference from the mean, squared difference from the mean. But here n minus 1 and n, this changes between sample and population. This n minus 1 is deliberately done so that you are accounting for this sample being only a small shadow of, yeah, yes, absolutely, yes, understood, yes. Now I want to just address the idea. Summation will be sum of square differences, agreed. I just want to address this n minus 1 thing, which is, we have to understand why this minus 1 is done over here. It's because we are taking a sample out from the population, and because we are saying that we are calculating the variance in the data, what if the population has different kinds of variation which is not captured in the sample? That question is always there, that we are assuming, we are saying that our sample is going to hold good for the population, but when you are actually dividing it, you will do that extra minus 1 of the number of samples that you have taken. You will just reduce it by 1 so that you are accounting for all the variances that have been missed. Okay, so that's the reason why you will do minus 1. So important, this is, if at all you are going to be interviewing for data analyst jobs, this is one important question that they will be asking. Okay, so the next slide is, all right, so this one, okay, so this one is the slide of normal distributions. So before that, I think we have to understand probability distribution. Probability distribution is in terms of an abstract quantity. You want to actually measure, given a series of data, given a sample series of data that you have collected, every data has its probability of occurrence. Like in the sense that if I say, if I go back to that example of the salaries that I mentioned, A, B, C, D and E, somewhere about 10, 8, 12, 14 and 45, you can actually say, you should actually appreciate that we need some kind of an equation or a graph or a measure which can say what is the probability that these kind of events will occur again and again. So PDFs, the probability distribution functions, are those functions which gets derived out of the data given. So given the data, you kind of know that you will get a probability distribution function which will tell you that what is the probability that you will find a certain kind of value or certain range of value. So one of the PDFs is the normal distribution. There can be many different distributions. As much as you can dig in, you will find always some general patterns everywhere. The most general is something which we call as a normal distribution. Okay, so that normal distribution looks like this. This is a normal distribution. What it is saying is, now how do you understand this? Where did this come from? Is it just somebody decided that this is the one it should be? So this, of course, is you can see it's a bell curve. So all they call it, actually refer it as the bell curve, and since it was given by a mathematician called Gauss, it is also called Gaussian distribution. What is it saying here? 34.1%. It is saying that given a data, you will find there is 34.1% chance that you will find a number between those, whatever number, like this distribution, let's say, is for age of people who were born between 1900s and 2000. Okay, 100 years of data, and you have collected, let's say, about 1 lakh people's data from somewhere, from some health, wherever the government data, you have got 1 lakh data you've got, and all these people lived from the year 1900s to 2000. Now age is actually going to follow normal distribution, and it says you will find 34.1% people who will be between 0 and 1 sigma. So you will actually have to go and find out what is the standard deviation in the age of all these 1 lakh people who lived from 1900 to 2000. So this range is not at all useful for us, that it occurred from 1900 to 2000, not at all useful. We just want to know the ID number, whoever it is, and the age of that person, or at what time. Age means what was the full age they lived. So you will eventually, at some point of time, you will find that you will have a certain mean value, mu. So about 34.1% of the people will be from between 0 to 1 sigma. Okay, and a large amount of people, like 34% of people, will be from 0 to -1 sigma. Now I cannot just guess some age and give you some mean value, because it's sort of a difficult thing to do, but I can change this example and make it into an example of college scores. In fact, I can make it into an example of, in fact, we can check this. Okay, I'll actually check this. How we'll check this? We can set up an experiment that if I run a quiz right now for 20 marks, and it is standard, it is already known that these marks will also follow the normal distribution, means people's marks. So if 100 people take up this exam or small test that I'll give for 20 marks, and let's say we find out that 10 happen to be the marks which is the mean marks, and about 2 was the standard deviation that came up. So this says that 34.1% of the people will have about 12 marks, and about 34.1% of the people will range in how much? 8 marks, and about 13.6% 2 sigma. How much is 2 sigma? Because this is 2 sigma, so 4, isn't it? Because 2 into 2 is 4. So 10 plus 4 is 14. Correct? So about 13.6 will get 14, and about 2.1% will get 16, and only about so many will get 18 and plus. So depending on how hard the test is. And the same thing is true here. It actually is mirrored. Around 14 here will get this much, and about from around 13.6% will get this is 10 minus 4 6, 10 minus 6 is 4, and then 2. So about 13.6% will score less, and about 34.1%. So this is what is happening even in all the colleges. So that is why you will find that there will be some retests, there will be second tests, so that all the time they want to improve the scores of people to get them to fit the bell curve. So any university's final output, if all the exams and all the results are getting after getting out, they need to, if they can adhere to this, then they can safely say that their quality of education is good. Okay, that is a mandate set. That is a mandate set by all this AICTE and NAC and all those people who come to rank the universities, right? They will set that you follow the normal distribution. If it is not even following the normal distribution, then there is something wrong with your education. At least we need to have 68% of the people between score of 8 to 12. Or they will set that how much should be. They will set that 68% of the people should have a certain score above 60, first class, or CGPA or GPA about 8. The rest can have their own distribution. So this distribution now says that given any point in the distribution, at this point, this is saying the probability of this particular event occurring is given by this distribution itself. There are many ways to see it. So if you just want to just say, okay, this is the section where this is the probability of occurrence of. So this is one way of looking at it. This is a very practical way of looking. This is a very usable way of looking at it. Now if you go and check out what is the Wikipedia or Google definition of probability density function, you will start appreciating the definition and the context that you have just observed. Okay, so what you've just learned. So is the concept clear, or you want me to sort of record something else or send you some other material or videos which can make it or give you some more insight? One if it is okay, 0 if you want me to send you some videos related to it. Guys, is it fine, clear? It's clear. Cool. So it's very important, this concept of. Now this just happened to be true for normal distribution. There are many other different kinds of distributions. Lorentz, exponential, Bernoulli's distribution, Poisson's distribution. In Poisson's, they're all different shapes. This is one shape. In your exponential or Lorentz, the shape will be like this. So here it is going to give you the probability of you finding something. So different kinds of phenomena they have observed, and they have found out that there are certain kinds of phenomena which comes with its own trend of the data occurring, right? So each of those trends will be in that way. Now this is done. Now we are going to the next. Mean is not taken as 0 in normal distribution. No, mean is, okay, this is just a standard deviation, not mean. This value, okay, good question actually, that could have been the mistaken. This is not the mean. This is the standard deviation. At the particular mean value, let's say I took 10 as the mean. How do you, we cannot assume mean, no, we cannot take. You're saying is always taken 0. No, we cannot take because we have got a series of data. We calculate the mean from this data. And whatever the mean comes out, we put it here. Now, what is the standard deviation of the mean from itself? 0. What is the deviation for a value which is here? 1 sigma minus sigma. So this one is 0 because the deviation is 0 here. And whatever the mean comes out, you put that mean here. Okay, hold x minus mean. X is certain value minus the mean divided by sigma. I will initiate a separate doubt class for this. Okay, we will go through this step by step, what you're meaning, how you are approaching this, and why you would get this. Right now I'll finish this, so keep this question for a doubt session, then we will only meditate on that aspect of it. Okay, is that fair? Because otherwise if I go deep in that, then this class will go slow. So for now, what you have to just, I hope this particular thing that you had is cleared. The equation of it and what it gets calculated, we will redo that again. We'll do a hand calculation of it again and we'll understand it. So this one is some mu, and the deviation from this at this point is 0, and then whatever value comes out here will be the standard deviations. Okay, is that fair? Asha, can we keep that doubt for a different session?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Alright, so probability mass function. The difference with PDF and PMF, it is called PMF, is nothing but here you have, let's say I told you, 1 lakh points of data you had, that age example I gave, 1 lakh data that you have. So every time calculating the PDF of this, iterating over 1 lakh points of data, it is computationally hard. Okay, back then it was really hard, and so PMF actually gives you a good this one. What they do is, if there are actually 1 lakh people, they will bucket the data, bucket in the sense that they will put about, it's up to us, we can say let's put 1000 in one box, another 1000 in another. So like this you will have about 100 buckets containing 1000 people's data in each, and let's take the mean value of each, mu1, mu2, mu3, you will get mean values of each. So now instead of you dealing with 1 lakh points of data, you are only dealing with 100 points of data, each representing the 1000 values. Why? Because We are interested in knowing its PDF, the probability of finding a number in a certain range. Okay, we are only interested in the PDF and not the particular number. So that is the reason I said in statistics, the number itself doesn't actually matter. It is only the difference between the number which is actually the fundamental quality of statistical analysis. So with that in mind, once you break it down into buckets, again you will put those mean values over here, and whatever you get is not a smooth curve this time but a histogram, okay, because you've broken it down. So we'll actually do this statistics hands-on. I'll send you a video which completely explains all of it that I have just explained. So that is probability mass function. Okay, this one we are going to do all of this, these hands-on videos, everything I'll share with you. Concept is important. Okay, hands-on, everything is self-explanatory. That is just Python. Python, you guys will easily handle it because it's all self-explanatory. So percentiles, same way, this is also a certain kind of distributions called Lorentz distribution. So PDF, the normal distribution and PDF that you wanted it to used to say, what is the probability of you finding a certain value? That is what that was PDF. So this is a different kind of a take. This says, in a data set, what's the point at which X% of the values are less than that value? So what is at 99th percentile? So if you say, okay, this is the income 506,553, 500 about $500,000 is an income distribution, example, income distribution. So that is the 99th percentile, means 99% of the people are earning less than this. So you have these exams, people are interested in going into writing CAT exams and all. So there is this drift that they say that if you are in GATE also, if you are planning, they say if you want to get into IIMs, you need to score about 99th percentile. Okay, they accept only 99th percentile. So does it mean that out of 100 marks question they actually score 99 marks? No, they could have scored only 10. But if all the 99 other people have scored less than 10 marks or 9.8 something, this becomes the 99th percentile or 100th percentile, and everything else now slowly 9.8 could be everything here below. People who have scored less than 9.8, maybe there are around 98 people. So the 9.8 score becomes the 99th. The person who scored 9.8 achieves the 99th percentile. So that is percentile. So it says what's the point at which X% of the values are less than that value. So that is one important aspect in this one. So anyway, so this is a slide which we teach for the main statistics course. This goes a long way deep into the stuff, but for us we need to get to machine learning and AI very fast. So I'm not going to go deep, and you will be given data. But see what happens, I'll tell you. This all this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are too many calculations inside depending on data. If you were to just take data, given any data, let's say you had 1 lakh age data, right? So if you just put 25% of the data in, divide it among 25, 25, 25, 25, and then you have a certain value, mean value here, a mean value here, and mean value here. Then here between this data and this data, whatever the mean value that you get, you will call that as the first quartile, mean or median. Okay, so then here between this value and this value, whatever the value that it is called the median, and this one is the third quartile value. So these are all quartile differences. So these actually come up in with their own kind of calculations. So there are the quartile deviations they call. So instead of just calling a standard deviation, which is for the entire data set, we divide it in terms of quartiles. Why? Because sometimes the standard deviation itself will not give. Standard deviation is just about entire phenomena. So we want to find out the deviations for each of this section. So these are called quartile deviations. So if quartile deviations are different, then you will say this one was same, this one was same, this one was same, and this one was different. So okay, the third quartile here, between this, the third, whatever you took, this value, this standard deviation, whatever is being calculated here for this section, it is not same as these. So probably this particular data or sample has not been drawn from the has not been collected for that particular phenomena. This sample was collected for something else, and by chance it has been mixed over here, because that's the reason why we are saying there is a standard deviations are all correct here, but this particular section has different kind of standard deviation. So there is a lot of something else which is happening here, lot of outliers, or maybe in this phase something else happened, or maybe this doesn't belong to covaxin at all. Maybe this is all covaxin, 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 and this one was for Covishield, and you have just added this value here. And so these are how we identify anomalies in data. So having different kinds of calculations actually matter. These things may be theoretical, but eventually it matters a lot when it comes to finally giving an output. This one is pretty much clear for you guys, right? Population sample. So you take a population you take a sample out of it, then you conduct descriptive statistics, then you have inferential statistics, and then that inference should work on the population. So this one is pretty much clear. This slide you already understood, the same slide which I have already given. If you want to understand one more time, descriptive statistics, inferential statistics concerned with describing the target population, makes inferences. Descriptive statistics organizes, analyzes, and presents the data in a meaningful form, like how we had histogram, how we had this one, how we had the PDFs and PMFs, right? The final result are shown in form of charts. Describe the data which is already known. Tools for descriptive: measure of central tendency, which you have understood so far, mean, median, mode, spread of data, range, and standard deviation variances. Now in inferential, compares, tests, and predicts the future outcomes. Final result is the probability scores, and it tries to make conclusion about the population that is beyond the data available. See, population and sample meaning is here. Now the tools to use is not like this. Here you have hypothesis test and analysis. ANOVA it is called, analysis of variance and all. Okay, so we don't really have to go into the depths of it. Now one interesting thing which I think it's already covered in the video, but this one I would ask somebody to actually unmute and tell me what it is. The central limit theorem. If somebody has watched the whole thing, then tell me the central limit theorem. What did you understand out of it? I'm sorry. Okay. Who wants to tell me what central limit theorem is? Or you want me to explain again? If you have not understood it, then tell me 0, 0. Give me a zeros. If I see enough zeros, then I'll explain. Even if I see 1, 0, I'll explain. Point 0.5 means 0 only, okay? There is no... Okay. anybody who wants to try explaining this, unmute and explain. It's okay, you can take a chance. Sometimes you might be right. No one? Nobody wants to take a chance? Come on, guys. I'm pretty sure you've seen the video, you've thought about it. Okay, look at the slide only and tell. Slide is also in front of you. What is it saying? Left side, population. You know what a population is. See the symbols over there and try to make sense of the symbols.
So should I give it a chance?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Sir, we have a population in front of us, and we randomly choose an sample size of different. Randomly, we divide the population into different sample sizes.
Okay.
And according to that, we do we take the example of the Covishield, that in this sample size, this much percent of the people have taken Covishield. And we in the random data we go through like that. The graph we achieve, according to that, then we take the mean of the random samples we have taken.
Okay. After that,
the mean graph, what we find out, its central limit, like that its median is the thing we want.
Good try, good try. Beginning was very hopeful, but it's okay. What is the meaning of this distribution of the sample mean? This is the distribution of the population. See the shape here? If there is anything you want to take away from this statistics class, this is the concept that you have to take. Trust me, you go and talk to anybody who think they understand statistics. If you explain to them this correctly, they'll have high regards and respect for you, because most of the definitions on Google will get it wrong. Okay, only very few websites actually explain the whole thing correctly. But I want you to experience this. See the distribution here, what it is meaning. It's not normal. Means what? This shape means what here? Why is it like this, the shape? This shape. Okay. This means it's just some population. Something is like this. Means, okay, height. It can be height and age. No, height and age is not like this. Something, let's say age and salary. Okay, so depending on age and salary is like this. There is no correlation at all. It's like this. Fine. Now the distribution of the sample mean is now looking very normal. This became this. How? What is it saying? It's a theorem. Theorem means what? It holds good for everything. For any given population, the sample, the distribution of the sample mean, for any given population, the distribution of the sample mean shows a normal distribution. This is what central limit theorem is. It is true for anything. This whole thing will become like this. How? First you take, let's say you have the same thing, 1 lakh data points of age data of that 1900 to 2000 data. Okay, we'll go back to the same example again and again, out of which you will take 1 lakh, right? So you will take about, let's say, 20,000 points of data. Now you calculate the mean age of it and you record that mean age here. Again, next you take another sample, 20,000. Again you take another sample, 20,000. Another sample, 20,000. You record the mean age. When you put this distribution, when you see, like, what is this? This is our actual point, no? But here you are actually plotting its mean itself. That is why it is called the distribution of the sample mean shows normal distribution. But one thing important that you have to remember is, first time you take a random, okay, first time you take a random, you will get one mean. The second time you take the random value, right, you have to put this back and then take the random. So the first time whatever you have taken, it is actually mixed back into the 1 lakh data point, and again random numbers are chosen. So chances are that whatever points were here can again repeat here. Chances are there. That is how randomness works. With this being true, that is called with replacement. It's called with replacement. It's a very important term. Simply you cannot take random. With replacement, you should take random. And if you keep doing this, initially you will not find, but if you repeat this for like 100 times or 200 times, taking sample, taking a sample mean, again putting back, taking sample, putting it back, right? If you repeat this, and if you keep on repeating this and plotting it, slowly from a very wrong kind of a figure, you will slowly achieve this normal distribution. Okay, this is the central limit theorem. Okay, so I hope you understood. Did you understand? Give me a 1 if you've understood. There is nothing. This is not like a very difficult concept to understand. I have just told you what it means. Okay, that is all I have told. But the key point to understand here is where is it used. So that's my assignment today for you. You have to go and find out where where central limit theorem is actually used. That's today's assignment. Okay. So with this one, I think it's pretty much, if you understand this and think about this, we can safely say that we have done some, we have covered some milestone in understanding and appreciate or generating an appreciation for statistics. Okay. Now the next points I'll show you, not much. You have moments. I'll give you a recording for moments. Okay. So the thing is, I'll tell you what happens. First, they created central tendencies. As it is, like first time they saw numbers, some smart guy came and said, hey, numbers we need to analyze. It's not enough. Let's find some measures. So they came up with mean, median and mode. Some other smart guy later on said mean, median, mode is not enough. We have to find out some other better calculations. Standard deviation and variance came up. After that, probability distribution functions, this, that, everything. There is also one more thing called moments. So moments are something which talks about your probability distribution itself, because you have this probability distribution here, right? Quickly I'll tell you, then I'll share the notes. Okay, this was a normal distribution. Now these shapes are of different types depending on data. This will depend on data. We are not setting it now. Just if it happens that if 68% are in -1 and 1 sigma, then it is normal distribution. If it happens so that 68% of the data points lie between -1 and 1, then it is normal distribution. But most of the time you will have different shapes. Like you will have a shape like this, or you will have a shape which is goes like this and then moves away. Some shapes like this, some shaped slow and then a lot of values over here and then slow. All are the distribution functions only, because the probability of you finding a large amount of data is high here, and in this range very less. That's what it is showing. That is a story. In fact, PDF shape itself is a story of the data. That is what you should be training your mind to see. If you can see the shape of the graph and get the full feel of the phenomena, that is mastering statistics. Okay, I have also not done, only very few. So there are too much including myself to learn, but this is how you get the drift of it. And these, whatever I told you just now, this idea of getting this feel is through moments. So you can now see the definition over here. Okay, let's see. Mathematically, it's, I told you in the beginning only, mathematics you leave it for the computers. Whatever equation is, computers will do. You can just get a feel for it. Okay, it's just, I think it's just misaligned. Okay, I'll get it right. In mathematics, a moment is a specific quantity measure used in both mechanics and statistics. From there also it is used, which describes the shape of the function. If the function is a probability distribution, okay, then the zeroth moment is total probability. The first moment is the mean. The second moment is the center. You only worry about this. The first moment is the mean. The first moment where it happens, the first movement of the distribution happens around the first, you can calculate it around the mean value. So mean will be the first moment. So you want, if you want to see observer data, you observe the data, the moments of the data around the mean first. Then you observe the variance, that is the second central moment. The third standardized moment is the skewness of the data, and the fourth standardized moment is the kurtosis of the data. Okay, we'll see. Already I have explained. When you see the slides, you will see, okay, this is all there is to it. I have already explained, right? The second moment is the variance, the first moment is the mean, the third moment is skew. So very simple. Skew actually gives you the measure of how lopsided is the distribution. The distribution with the longer tail on the left is the left skewed, and also you can say it is negative skew. The skewness is this. This is skew. So this is negative skew. Longer tail on the left will be skewed left, so left skew or negative skew, and this one is positive skew. Now let's say I'm going to give you, I'm going to say this one is A and this one is B. I'm asking a question now. Be prepared for a, consider this as a quiz, and I'll ask a question. Consider this as University A. Consider this as University B. And consider this to be the probability distribution function of the marks that was achieved in 2021. Which university has the better chance of getting or renewing their university license in the year 2022, next year? Think and tell me. This is the probability distribution of the scores which I explained.
University A.
Type in A, B, Nobody with B, hopefully. So I guess everybody understands now. Now you're able to think into this. Is a fantastic thing. You should pat yourself on the back. Now you're able to think in terms of standard deviations, probability distribution functions, and you can understand the skews, the negatives and the positives, and make an informed decision just by looking at the data. Congratulations, you have just understood descriptive statistics. Okay, most of the many times I have like many students, trust me, much older than you guys, right? So not everybody gets it, but you guys have been fantastic. Good. Now same thing, you have another measure called kurtosis. Names doesn't matter, you just have to remember it. Finally the shapes matter here. Okay, so basically what it says is how thick is the tail and how sharp is the peak. So if you were to check this for shares data, share market data, so you would probably always be trying to observe if there was a sudden jump in the value of shares of a particular share, if somebody is actually aggressively buying and selling something, right? These kind of trademark things happen when you try to calculate the kurtosis of the value. Okay, so basically higher peaks have higher kurtosis, and actually it is calculating how thick is the tail and how sharp is the peak, and there is actually a number. All this actually eventually comes out as a number. Okay, there is a kurtosis value that you can calculate. There is actually a skewness in terms of some numbers. Okay, now if you want to see what that number is, go and check out the equation of kurtosis and this one, and now follow in that equation. Now you will find only these symbols: x, mu, sigma, n. This is it. Why? Because there are number of samples, one sample, the mean of the sample, the standard deviation of sample. You understood everything now. So all your equations will be like this, using this only. It is not some mystery phenomena where you will simply introduce some new equation or new symbol which doesn't have any meaning. You will always have this, and of course you will have these symbols where you will be summing up something, or probably if it is too much of a data where you want to see the area under the curve, you will have some integration symbols. Okay, so that's it. So you can always find these equations over there, and these equations are easy to by heart, because that's from where we have come from, right? From our education system asks us to memorize equations, and we score people on how well they can memorize stuff. But that's the reason why that's the reason why Discord is not created by us, neither the mic that I am speaking with nor any technology that we are using is not created by us. So we need to get out of that mindset and start getting a feel for it. So develop this, okay? Develop this way of thinking, and you will be surprised how beautiful, what kind of creative things you will come up with. So next class, or I will share some videos on what covariance is. This is also very important stuff. Covariance is where your machine learning starts. So tomorrow I will start with covariance. Tomorrow's session will be covariance. We will do linear regression. We will do a linear regression problem. Okay, that is ML. That is supervised machine learning. So I guess we'll catch up tomorrow, and we'll get these things done. Okay, now if I start all these things, then it will be a little too much, I guess. Or if you're okay, then I will take about 10 to 12 minutes break, and then we'll come back and we'll finish it. Covariance will finish.
So we can start tomorrow.
No, another half an hour, 1 hour is I could have finished. Okay, today's this one I'll send, no problem. and I'll send some hands-on today. Okay, all these things that you understood here, no, percentiles, this and that, all that hands-on you need to do, right? So all the hands-on IPython notebook, I'll send it, and with the associated video. So watch the video and see how you can calculate these things in Python. Very simple stuff. Okay, so for that I think you will need this day, so take that this one and calculate it. All these things will be asked in exam. I'm pretty sure you'll do well. Chalo then, have a good evening. And that one doubt, I think I'll be after 10 minutes I'll be in the doubt session, ma'am. Asha ma'am, I'll be in the doubt session. Where is the doubts group? Doubts here, public area doubts, this one. Okay, we'll discuss over there. I think that's a text channel. I'll be in the waiting lobby. Okay, after this one I'll be in the waiting lobby for after about 10 minutes. At about 5:45 I'll be here in the waiting lobby. If anyone has any doubt, anything to ask, we will discuss over there. What time will the videos be? I'll just finish this right away and put it for pre-processing. Now if I put it out